What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and today I'm bringing you a guide on how to use Roaring Moon in competitive Pokemon. If you guys are excited for the video, then leave a like on the video and help us reach our like goal of 75 likes. Comment your thoughts on Roaring Moon down in the comments below, as well as which Paradox Pokemon you want to see covered next. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Pokemon content. But let's go ahead and jump on into it. Starting off with Roaring Moon's stats, its stats are incredible. Like pretty much every single one of the Paradox Pokemon, it has 105 base HP with 71 defense and 101 special defense. So it is a very bulky Pokemon with a pretty nice defensive type. On top of that, its offensive stats are just bonkers. 139 attack is crazy. It has 55 special attack, which again is not great, but it's a physical attacker. That's what it's here for. And its speed at base 119 is incredible. A really useful speed tier to have in a metagame like this. It is fast, it hits hard, it's got great stab options, and it really knows exactly what it wants to do. You don't have to worry about it being like 85 special attack and then taking that 30 points of special attack and putting them somewhere else. You don't have to worry about that at all. It is already going to be a big, bulky offensive hitter, and it's going to do great at that. In terms of its typing, it's a great type. Dragon Dark is a great type. Hydreigon shares the same typing here. It has one more immunity because of Levitate. This Pokemon has weaknesses to Dragon, to Ice, to Fighting, and to Fairy 4 times, and also to Bug, which I forgot to put on my notes. Either way, it is resisting Fire, Water, Grass, Electric, Ghost, and Dark, and has an immunity to Psychic. So having an immunity is really good, especially to an offensive type like Psychic, because you can come in freely and then really pressure them with your Dark Stab, but also set up with potential Dragon Dances too. The fact that it has a good number of resistances is also very nice, and the weaknesses it has, while they are pretty common now in this type of metagame, you still are able to handle them pretty effectively with other Pokemon, and that's why I think the typing works really well. Its ability is Photosynthesis, which is the ability for the Scarlet Paradox Pokemon, for the Pokemon that are from the past. They boost the highest stat of the Pokemon if the sun is up, or if the booster energy is held, which is a consumable item. If the speed is the highest stat, it'll gain a 50% boost, so it's like a one-stage boost, like a Choice Scarf. And if any other stat is higher, it'll be a 30% boost, so like a Life Orb boost. And that's really good. That was new information that we actually found out a couple of days ago before I made the Iron Valiant video. And this is a big change because it really affects how this Pokemon plays out. And it really says that the value this Pokemon is going to have is from the boost in its speed, because it's a 50% boost rather than a 30% boost. Moving on to its move pool, we're going to cover a couple of notable moves, starting off with arguably the most important one, and that's going to be Dragon Dance. So Dragon Dance gives it a boost to its attack and to its speed by one stage. We all know this move. We all know and love this move. It's a great move to have on any Dragon-type Pokemon, and it really makes this thing into a monster threat. In terms of Dragon Stab, it has three solid options: Dragon Claw, Outrage, and Scale Shot. These three options are really good for either consistency with Dragon Claw, just big damage with Outrage, and then an extra speed boost with Scale Shot at the expense of a bit of accuracy and the defense drop. In terms of its Dark Stab, we have moves like Crunch and Throat Chop, which are both very consistent. Crunch has the chance to defense drop, Throat Chop has a chance, or not the chance, but it will stop sound moves from happening for 2 turns, which could have a lot of utility depending on what the opponent Pokemon you're worrying about is. And then depending on any certain matchups and different competitive formats, Jaw Lock could be useful. It's still 80 base power and it prevents you and the target you're using this on from switching out. It also gets access to Snarl, which can be really good in doubles. It has access to Fire Fang to hit steel types, as well as Earthquake for those things. You have access to Rock Slide for doubles. Roost is really nice for recovery, especially because your special defense is really, really high. Tailwind can be good in certain situations for speeding up the rest of your team. Taunt is obviously very good. We're seeing it run a lot in this metagame. U-Turn is great. The fact that this thing gets U-Turn is honestly one of my favorite things about it, and I really do like it a lot. And then there's Zen Headbutt as well, which could be used to just hit those fighting types that are going to come in and try and take your Dark Stab. But most of the time, you're going to be running your Dark move, your Dragon move, and your Earthquake or Fire Fang. Those are going to be the main moves you're going to be running with a Pokemon like Roaring Moon. As for teammates, we're going to start off with Goldengo. This Pokemon, the reason why I think it's such a good pairing with Roaring Moon is because it is resisting or immune to every single type that Roaring Moon is weak to, which is awesome. Roaring Moon, it resists every type that Goldengo is weak to other than ground, and that's because it's not an immunity and it's a neutral hit, which is fine. They basically break through each other's checks really well and handle each other's weaknesses defensively incredibly well. On top of that, Good as Gold as the ability for Goldengo is really nice, because if something's going for a Will-O-Wisp on you or a Thunder Wave, you can then switch out into the Goldengo and be immune to it because of the ability preventing it from being afflicted by status moves. Really useful there. Then I think that Magnezone is a fantastic partner, because one of the biggest answers to this Pokemon are going to be Steel types. Are you going to be dealing with Steel types that are immune to ground like Corviknight or Skarmory? Or are you going to be dealing with Steel types that maybe are, well, weak to ground? Who knows? The main thing is Magnezone comes in traps them, and then then you don't have to worry about those steel types anymore. You can shut them down, do big damage to them with like Terra Blast Electric, or Terra Blast Ground, excuse me, and that's going to be the best way to break through those steel type Pokemon, which is really, really useful depending on the situation you're in. Then there's Glimmora with its new move Mortal Spin. It gets rid of hazards for you really effectively. It also sets up hazards with its ability and the fact that it gets spikes and stealth rocks. It's got a really good special attack and it punishes fairy types for Roaring Moon, which I really like a lot. Other than that, we have Iron Moth, which has a lot of really good synergy with this Pokemon, and the fact that it's an amazing fairy type killer. This Pokemon resists fairy 4 times, being poison and fire. It also checks them in a way that this Pokemon just really can't afford to do, and they form a great core together offensively and defensively. And on top of that, the speed tiers that we're looking at 119 and 110 are really impressive for these combinations of Pokemon. Then there's Amoonguss. I think Amoonguss is great because it's a really good pivot. It resists a couple of key types that this Pokemon is weak to, and it's able to basically put things to sleep for Roaring Moon so it can set up, and in doubles it offers Rage Powder so you can set up even further, so really useful there. Then I have Skeledirge. Skeledirge I like a lot because it's able to cover really well for Roaring Moon's weaknesses, notably to Fairy and to Fighting, and a couple others like Bug as well. But this thing is really able to do a lot of good things and spread burns to a lot of the teams, so physical threats are not going to be as much of an issue for Roaring Moon. Then I have Torkoal. Why? It is a Sunsetter. Torkoal in Sun will be able to activate the photosynthesis for Roaring Moon, giving it the boost to whether it's its speed or its attack or it's whatever it's going to be, which is really, really valuable depending on the situation you're in. Then there's Azumarill and Primarina. I know Prim is not in the game right now. It's more so for like national dex formats. And these Pokemon are really good because they're great resist to a lot of the weaknesses that Roaring Moon has. But the big thing is they're able to check offensively and defensively the Dragons, Darks, and Fighting types that are running around the metagame right now, which is really, really important. They're able to be good bulky Pokemon, good speedy Pokemon if it's with a Scarf or with Priority Aqua Jet, and of course they're able to hit insanely hard. So a really good combination. Ton of options we've gone over so far for this Pokemon and its teammates. Moving on to Terra types for this Pokemon, the best ones are going to be, in my opinion, Steel. Steel is without doubt the best one because number one, fairy types are the best check to you, and turning into a steel type will make it so that you resist the type coming in and hitting you. On top of that, Terra Blast Steel is going to do a ton of damage to basically any fairy type coming your way, so super useful there. Then I think Fairy is really good as well because you're able to take the dragon type attacks as an immunity, which is really nice in case your team does not appreciate taking dragon type attacks at all. Maybe your steel type's not as good as you'd like it to be. Having access to a Terra Fairy Pokemon could be a big advantage for you. And the last one I have is Terra Dragon. I think Terra Dragon is nice because you want to boost your dragon type attacks, which are really powerful in this metagame. If you can get rid of some fairy types early on with the powerful steel types, you're going to partner with this Pokemon, then having access to a Terra Dragon Roaring Moon is absolutely incredible and definitely one of the best types you can have on a Pokemon like this. Moving on to some items for this Pokemon, some of the best items I think, number one is going to be the Life Orb. I think this is really good because you can bring this Pokemon in multiple times. Unlike with the booster energy, you can only bring them in one time and get that Life Orb boost. In this case here, the Life Orb stays forever. Yes, you are taking that 10% every single time, but you do have access to recovery in Roost. You have an immunity to Psychic. You have a couple of key resistances. You should be able to break through really effectively. Then I think a Choice Scarf makes a lot of sense because you are already really fast at 119 base speed, but having the extra boost in speed on top of that could be absolutely deadly in the right circumstances. Having the speed boost to really catch an opponent off guard can be really nice, and you have really high base power attacks with a really good attack stat already. It lets you put a lot of pressure on opposing teams while having the Choice Scarf, and I think a Choice Scarf set works really well with something like a Torkoal to give you a boost potentially in attack, so you can get the boost in speed from the Scarf and the boost of attack from the photosynthesis. Then I think the booster energy also makes a lot of good sense here because you're going to be able to boost your attack by 30% or your speed by 50%, and that could be really good to just start the ball rolling for whether it's a Dragon Dance set or even just a set to start breaking right away. It could be very big in terms of the advantage you're going to be gaining compared to the rest of the Pokemon on your team. I think a Choice Band makes some sense, but I prefer to have any of the other items. I do like it in certain situations, but again, your team really has to call for a banded Pokemon because banded outrage from this thing is going to be absolutely crazy. And then I have leftovers because having a bulky Roost set could be really useful in certain situations, mostly depending on what the meta evolves into. If you're going to be able to rely on a Pokemon that has like Roost, Taunt, U-Turn, and then one coverage move, it could be really good because it is decently bulky with its really high HP stat and its really high special defense stat. Its defense leaves a little bit to be desired, but at the end of the day, it is a possibility, so I could see it making some sense. Moving on to some movesets here, we're going to be looking at the Choice Band set. The reason why Band is going to make a lot of sense on this set is because it hits insanely hard. Having access to Banded Outrage from a Pokemon with 139 attack is really strong, as well as the coverage options from Crunch and from Earthquake are really nice, and this Terra type is going to be Terra Blast Steel, which is there to break through opposing fairy types. Depending on the situation you're in, this could be a really big situation to blow past a lot of other Pokemon. Then we have a booster energy set, which is really strong. This set here, it is going to be able to blow past basically anything with a Dragon Dance up, which is really strong. Having Outrage, Crunch, and Earthquake are all really useful to break past basically anything outside of like Corviknight really, and that's the main thing. Then we have access to a leftover set I'm running here. This is running Outrage, Roost, Earthquake, and Dragon Dance. And this one here I want to say specifically to pair it with Magnezone, because you want to get rid of things like Corviknight that are going to be resisting the Outrage and immune to the Earthquake. So I really like this Pokemon here with the Dragon and Ground Stab, as long as you can get rid of a Pokemon like the Corviknight. And I think it makes a lot of sense to be a Terra Dragon on this Pokemon here. Finally, for some predictions, I think the predictions that make a lot of sense for the Smogon tiers are going to be that this thing is going to be Ubers. Yes, Ubers makes a lot of sense for this Pokemon. It's getting banned, but I can see a world where it actually stays. And the reason for that is because I think Iron Valiant goes first, obviously. Iron Valiant, I think, is much more broken than this Pokemon here, but I think there's going to be a lot of good checks to this Pokemon that are going to be roaming around. Pokemon like Azumarill, Pokemon like Grimmsnarl, Chien-Pao, these Pokemon are going to stop Roaring Moon from being a bit too much in the metagame, but I think over time it might prove to just be a little bit too hard to take hits from, a little bit too forceful in terms of what it's going to prepare or make you prepare rather. So that's a big deal in terms of what you can actually, well, decide upon when sending a Pokemon to Ubers tiers or keeping them in OU. Then we have VGC. For VGC, I think an early VGC is going to be amazing because Sun is always crazy in early VGC with like Torkoal and Lilligant. I think getting Roaring Moon a boost in VGC while having the Sun up is really advantageous because it can also set up Dragon Dances with abilities like Fake Out or abilities like Rage Powder to redirect things. It can really allow this Pokemon to put in a lot of work. And I think it's going to really force a lot of people to prepare around it. The issue is there's going to be so much more broken stuff, in my opinion, than in Smogon that are allowed compared to in VGC, and that's why I think it's not going to be as good, but it is still going to be very strong. And then finally in Draft League, on a 17 to 18 point scale, I think this Pokemon is going to end up being banned. Banned, of course. This Pokemon is just crazy. It should not be allowed. It is honestly a debate in Draft League if this Pokemon should go first or second. It's either this or it's going to be the Iron Valiant, maybe even the Dragapult, who knows. But I think that these three Pokemon really have a leg up compared to a lot of other Pokemon available in the Paldea Dex format, in the Wi-Fi scene. In a National Dex scene, you could argue a couple different ways, but I think this Pokemon is still absolutely crazy. Having access to this Pokemon when not everyone else does, it really affects a lot because it can do so many different things in the meta. It has great coverage options. It's going to blow past so many different Pokemon. It's not as weirdly statted like a Pokemon like Dragapult is. It's got the right amount of speed and a ridiculous amount of attack to just do an absolute insane amount of work. I think this Pokemon should definitely be banned from Draft League. Well, that's all I've got for you guys today on Roaring Moon. If you enjoyed the video, then make sure to leave a like on the video, as we're aiming for 75 likes on today's content. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well for more daily competitive Pokemon videos, and of course comment which Pokemon you want to see me cover next. Also, this is the first time I'm recording since we hit 2,000 subscribers, so I want to give a big thank you to everyone who's joined our Ocean, the community here on the channel. So guys, thank you so much. And I also want to give a big thank you to our YouTube channel members as well. They've gone the extra mile by supporting the channel financially. If you want to do so, you can do so by clicking on the join button down below. So thank you so much to Liv, Eric, Zeke, and Texas Man, our level 1s. Our level 2 is Tone, and our level 3 is Sully. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.